Welcome to the Mooresville Town Council Tuesday, January 21st meeting. The first thing we'll do is our pledge, and then after that we'll do an invocation. And I'll have Bob Claprock, who's an elder at Grace Church, do our invocation after the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father God, we thank you for another day you've given each of us. Father, we thank you for the ones that sit before us, Lord, to represent us in decisions made about our town, Lord. We pray that you will give them wisdom in the judgments they make. We pray that they will be the correct judgments, Lord, and we just thank you again for another day, and we thank you for all you provide for us. In your name, amen.
So at this point, we'll call the meeting to order. First item on the agenda is the approval of minutes from the previous meeting on January 7th, 2020.
I'll make a motion we approve the minutes as presented.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
There's a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. New business. This is the rezone of professional court. It's my understanding that the petitioner is not present tonight, and that this may have gotten on the agenda as a result of a previous meeting discussion. Basically, I can say the petitioner hasn't formally requested that we look at the item tonight, but also hasn't formally withdrawn the request. So
There's someone that signed up there. Is that Dana?
yes.
Dana, I think we all received I received an email. I appreciate you reaching out to us, but I think Shane and I were discussing, we think that possibly they were told, the rezone, the petitioner was told at the December meeting that this would be heard at our second meeting in January, and they, like you said, they never requested it. However, our clerk treasurer's office did an outstanding job by going ahead and placing it on there. With that said, I will make a motion that we table this indefinitely or until the petitioner requests to be placed on the agenda.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
If that gets on the motion, if that gets on the agenda in the future, I'll make sure that that's advertised.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, we have a public hearing for the Overton confirmatory resolution. And so we need to open the hearing. The hearing is now open. Do we have anybody from the public that would like to speak on for or against the Overton abatement?
I would.
Oh,
Too late.
I'm Mike Dellinger with the Morgan County Economic Development Corporation. 2 weeks ago, you met Scott Bowie, who's the CEO of Overton. This is a $140,000 capital investment for personal property at Jig Grinder. It helps to retain 53 current jobs. We'll add a 54th job, and we would appreciate your approval this evening. As I recall, it's eligible for a 5-year abatement, I think is what the worksheet showed. And so then you know what the savings to the company would be, and also the payment that they will make in that period. So thank you very much for your support.
motion to close public hearing.
Okay, we have a motion. There was nobody that wanted to come up, correct? Nobody else? Okay, we have a motion to close the public hearing. Do we have a second?
I will second.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Do you have a resolution number?
Yes,
Again, I want to reiterate that I think that Overton has been an outstanding corporate partner with the town of Mooresville, and I will make a motion that we approve Resolution 2, 2020.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Have a second, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Next item on the agenda, we had talked about the agenda format and deadlines and wanted to speak about that in a public meeting. My issue, the reason I wanted that on the agenda was just so we want to make sure we get the agenda put out in time for all the members of the council to see it, and also for the public to have advance notice of what's coming out on the agenda. So I thought we would just discuss that and maybe set a standard. I think in the past it's been the Thursday before the meeting. And I'm not sure if that's always been adhered to or.
Well, that you will see that things will come up that you'll have to have at the last minute, but we can work with you on that, but I think the deadline of Thursday evening would be appropriate. I know that's what Sandy's guideline for in the past. So, like I said, it would give us an opportunity to share it on Facebook and give the public notice what's going to be discussed. So,
Was it Thursday when you were on there, or was it
I
Tuesday?
agree with your
I thought it was Thursday.
Another thing I was thinking is I wanted to be sure.
We always add stuff.
I've had a lot of complaints from the public, and when I was a member of the public, just out there, I would notice a lot of votes were taken before the public had an opportunity to speak. And I'd like to see more opportunity for the public to be able to comment before votes are taken. So that was part of the discussion I wanted to have tonight. And then the format there, I think we could maybe tweak this just a little bit. There's a couple, like unfinished business and unfinished, and then there's old business, that we could clean up on the agenda. So I also thought that maybe we should have a time at the end of the meeting where each member of the council is given an opportunity just to add anything that they think is valuable. Those are my thoughts.
The agenda, and I did ask Jeff, he said he thought it was Thursdays when you were on there before. At one point in time, it was Tuesdays. That way we had a full week to investigate. But it's also, you don't want to contradict what you just said, where you want the public to be able to have input. You also don't want to turn the public down as far as when they say, hey, I would really like to get on there. If Thursday is the deadline, that's the deadline. I would like to have some leeway in the case of emergencies, though, or in case the council finds something that has to be discussed, or we can just drop that in under other. You made the comment that you want input from the council at the end of it, so I guess we could do that. But most emergencies everyone knows about long before it comes to a vote. So basically, if we've been working off of Thursdays, I say we continue to do that. If we see it causes a problem, then we go from there. I don't think the council has ever been locked down on a policy of not accepting input from the public. I guess if council chooses, we can just ask for any public comments before any vote.
Just an example of some of the communities that I've worked with, when we talk about different action items and the like, public participation, several communities have at the beginning of their meeting what they call the open session for public comment on non-agenda items. So if somebody just wants to bring a good of the order type of matter in front of the council, they can bring that up as long as it's not on the agenda. And then when you run into the agenda itself, you limit that time frame to 3 minutes so that it's, you don't have meetings that run on for days on it. But be relatively quick. I think you will know when you're going to have public comment, because it's going to be a controversial issue, and those are meetings that you're going to be prepared that are going to run a little long. But that way you give the public plenty of opportunity to speak both on non-agenda items and on agenda items if you would like.
So you're saying to offer a time after each agenda item, just make it part of the,
Yeah, so I would say that when you run into an action, you ask for any other comment from the council.
Stop watching.
Seeing none, any public comment on this agenda item. None, then you go to call for such one little comment section.
After the second?
Right.
before the vote, so after
Before the vote,
second, allow the council time.
And you can build that into any time in there. I mean, that's just one time when you're having a discussion amongst the council to offer any public.
Any other thoughts?
Jeff has a stopwatch. I asked.
So do we need a motion to?
I just say, as far as I'm concerned, my consensus or my vote is, we give it a try. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Move on. If you want that in the form of a motion, I'll do it. If you want to take a consensus, I'll vote for that. It's up to you.
I prefer a motion, just.
There it is. Motion to give the agenda format and deadlines a try.
We have a motion, we have a second.
I'll second.
We have a second. We have any discussion? Any public comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Next item on the agenda, the town council attorney usage policy. And this came out of a discussion between Attorney Lee and I about this, so would you mind telling?
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of get a clear understanding. I represent the town and I represent all of the town council members. But what I didn't want to happen is, what I've seen in some communities and that I represented is, I get a call from one council person asking for input on item X. And then that leads to, some time dedicated to that. You get a call from a different council person asking for input on item Y. And then all of a sudden we have 4 or 5 different items that I'm working on that none of the other council understand or have discussed. And I don't want to get in a situation where you all receive a bill from me and say, what just happened here? And so one of the things that I was thinking is, generally speaking, and Council President said that he would want to be available to the council to answer questions and respond in that fashion. So if it's a matter that is not going to exceed something like 2 or 3 hours worth of time, then I can go ahead and address those issues. But if it's going to be a substantial amount of time above and beyond, just a small investment, that we get some approval process, just so this council is aware that legal will be working on that issue. And it's for the protection of the town, so you guys don't have a huge bill. It's my protection, so I don't spend time working on something that you all don't want me to be working on.
I think you could fix that by just not billing us.
Well, I would think about that, but then I got some people I can answer to, and my wife is one of them.
I've never, I think in the past, some councils have tried to limit that. I think maybe I would be comfortable with just a email that I have reached out to Mr. Lee in regards to what my thoughts are to the other 4 council members. That way you know what I'm working on. Shane, I think you did. You said, hey, I sent this to him for him to look at. I requested him to make the changes if he could. I thought that was fair and don't have a problem with continuing to do it that way. That way everyone knows I'm not calling and asking you about an issue and then Dustin or Jeff or Jessica calling you and asking you the exact same question.
And that'll work, and I will only ask that you include me on the communication, just so, there's certain notification laws and stuff. So if it's just amongst the 5 of you, then that could be technically a meeting, and if I'm not on that, but if I am on that, it's a legal issue, so you have the privilege that comes into play, and then it's not technically I would not be concerned with a claim of a public meeting.
Okay.
Proper public meeting, so, but yeah, I'm fine.
So if we just add you to that this is what I've done,
And there's no discussion back and forth, it would just be,
information,
and that doesn't violate open door.
is that correct?
Yep.
I think that's a common courtesy and is a great idea.
Do we need a motion?
I don't think you need a motion, I mean, I'll just operate under that.
Okay. I just wanted it clear so that everybody was on the same page with that. Next item on the agenda, department liaisons. This used to be done in the past year, I think, where we assign a town department to a council member so that members of the public would know who was responsible for what, and it would give the department head, instead of 5 people in their ear all day long, maybe just 1. So that's my thoughts, but I wanted to see if the council would entertain setting that system back up.
I think that in the past, I've always seen it as that at that point in time, it's not someone in the department head's ear, it's the department head has a liaison to work for them. As you notice, there are different areas that aren't technically departments that we oversaw. I think it's always been a good idea to have, for the department head to have someone that they can go and lean on and say, hey, I need this. And then, I won't mention any names of departments, but when they need a new dump truck or something silly like that, their liaison can bring it back to them, can bring it to the council with, this is a need, this is why, and this is possible funding mechanisms. So I agree wholeheartedly. I would be more than happy to use that system.
I think it's worked in the past for us, and it gives them somebody to go to versus having to keep chasing somebody down to explain what their wants and needs are. It's a person, a point of contact, so I like that idea also.
So then how do we make it happen?
You divide up the teams and we go from there. That's the way it's always been done in the past.
Okay. Just do that outside of the meeting then,
Yeah, it would be like an appointment.
but,
I'm not giving you a resume.
okay. Once you're ready.
We're not there yet.
Okay. Do we need a motion? Just do it? Okay. All right, good. Did you have any input, Jessica, on that as well?
I think it's a good idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there anybody that thinks it's a bad idea?
Probably every department head.
Okay, we're on to the next agenda item, unfinished business, and this is the Baker Tilly letter of engagement.
Good evening, council members. Scott Miller with Baker Tilly. This was tabled at the last meeting 2 weeks ago. The engagement letter before you, the work that would be done with this through this engagement letter would be to continue a process that's already been started, and that's the analysis of the rates and charges for the wastewater system of the town. There are a 2-phase series of projects that have been proposed to be conducted. Baker Tilly has completed a rate study on those projects, or on the rates that would be required to fund those projects through a financing. The prior council actually had decided to move forward with those increases, but never actually went forward with the process of changing the rate ordinance. So that would still need to take place. And so at this point, depending on what this council wants to do, we can either make revisions to that study or proceed forward. But in any event, the engagement letter would provide for completing that rate study process and then also moving through the financing phase for the improvement projects. And that would include working with your legal counsel to get the ordinances in place, or both a rate ordinance and a bond ordinance that would change the rates and charges and authorize the financing, and then working with you all to prepare the offering document that would be used to market the bonds to fund the project, and working you all the way through that entire process of developing that document, taking it through the rating agencies to get the bonds rated, all the way through the bond sale and closing on that financing, if that's what you want to do for the wastewater. So this engagement letter includes all of that. It's set up for the most part as a time and expense, although there is a piece of it that is a fixed fee. So most of that work would be done time and expense. Whatever we put into it is what we would bill you. Because you do have outstanding debt, we would be required to do a parity test, and that we bill at a flat $4,000. So time and expense for everything up through that point, a fixed fee for that, and then there will be post-issuance requirements that will have to be taken care of by the town as well. That includes continuing disclosure that would have to be done on an annual basis, and we generally bill that on a time and expense basis, and then also arbitrage rebate calculations that have to be provided to the IRS every 5 years, and so we would every 5 years do that for you as well. So as I stand here today, to get you through without any adjustments to the rate study that's already been completed, to go from this point through closing on a financing and getting the funds in your accounts to move forward with that project is probably going to be in the $50,000 to $60,000 range, I would suspect. Could be less. Just depends on how efficiently we move through the process and how many meetings we need to have. That cost is built into the project costs and could be either financed through proceeds, financed with cash through the wastewater, financed with food and beverage funds if those are applied to the project. So there's a lot of different ways that could be paid, but that cost is built into the project right now. So that's what the engagement letter is for. I'm happy to answer any questions about the specific tasks that we would be conducting for you, or how how the billing would be calculated, or for that matter, anything about the project as well in terms of the cost of the project or potential impact on rates. We've done a lot of work to this point, but still have the opportunity really to make adjustments as this council sees fit.
I believe last meeting, Councilman Worthing, you mentioned the possibility of some food and beverage for this. Is that what I heard?
There's some soft costs built into every project, and trying to keep the debt as low as possible. What I'd like to see done on this, if you're comfortable with this now, I know you've had an opportunity, and I think we do need to move forward. What the one thing there is, I know that we'll need TAF to help us with the ordinance. Our ordinance is going to be just a little bit different from past ordinances. It's not going to be necessarily a plug and play. We've asked for, and Baker Tilly did an outstanding job. Scott looked at me a little funny, but we did a minimum bill that I kind of liked, and he grins every time. And then we also, the previous council asked for some type of a summertime adjustment for people with certified irrigation systems, real irrigation systems. There was some questions on whether we could put a systems built before date on there, to where the developers knew that from that point forward they had to start putting in separate meters, just to protect us and to kind of put a stop date on it. We never told anyone no before or yes before, so this is kind of new to us. If everyone's comfortable with it, I would like to go ahead and fund this. You said possibly, and I'm not holding you to this, 50 to 60,000.
That's my estimate as we sit here today.
And I know that that's a moving target, how many times we call you and change our mind, but I would love to enter with this letter of engagement and start this process, and fund it through food and beverage. And if you want that in the form of a motion, I will make that.
Tell me, what is in food and beverage right now? Do you know offhand?
1.9, is that right? I believe so. Debbie? I'm gonna say it is 1.8,
Okay.
1.9. I apologize, I did not bring a fund report with me. Because I'm gonna ask to pay for some more out of that here in just a minute.
Not a problem.
Looky here, who's prepared? Who's the Boy Scout?
Well, this is 12, 17, 1.7.
1.7, okay, we took that, okay. Sorry, I lied,
That's
1.7.
close enough.
Boy Scout, boy, I tell you what.
Did you make the motion, or do I, yeah, I accept the motion.
I'll make a motion that we enter into the sign the letter of engagement with Baker Tilly to move forward on the complete study, everything that's listed 2 through 19, and fund it through food and beverage.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second, is there any discussion amongst the council? Seeing none, how about the public? Anybody like to comment? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, the Banning Engineering Letter of Engagement.
Shane, I did have one question, and I've already made the motion, we've already voted on it. Were you able, I did not look at, I looked at our old, I did not look at the new, were we able to get the house rule on the,
He had updated the contract.
Okay.
Yes, and that was, we had in the contract that he had gotten those from the Baker Tilly, correct?
Correct. So,
Yeah.
So we got jurisdiction.
we don't know that that's really home rule, but
Well, they were agreeable to jurisdiction here, just something I'm kind of thinking.
we've had absolutely no problem with him in the past, so I don't see how that would ever be an
Yep,
issue.
I don't anticipate it.
Just for the benefit of the public, after it was tabled last meeting, we had the attorney, the new attorney, Mr. Lee, review that, and he did make a couple of changes to the documents, so that's what we just approved. was the new
And this is us right now. So regardless, it's going on.
So we ready for the next item? Go ahead.
Good evening, council members. Kent Elliott with Banning Engineering. And I'm coming before you tonight as a follow-up to our last council meeting. We talked about a couple contracts that were two subsequent contracts to part of the sanitary sewer project for phase 1 that we've already completed the design and the bidding documents for that. We did some revisions after talking with Mr. Lee and Mr. Williams. And those two contracts, the legal language we've adjusted, and also the contracts are broken out into two specific groups. You know, we talk about the phase 1 and the phase 2. The phase 1 project, the contract gets us through construction administration for the construction of the project, and then phase 2 is the design and the construction administration of the project. So those are the two contracts that you have before you tonight. I know we talked about the project at the last meeting, but I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
With your changes, are they still projects 19, 312, and 313?
Yes.
In the past, we've always approved these subject to council review. So we've already done the council review, so I'm good with that. Did you get all your answers?
I did, I was able to meet with both gentlemen and spent, what, half an hour and a half, 2 hours. Got all the questions answered. I know you brought Diesel visuals to show the public up front here what the projects are. Could you talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, sure, certainly I could do that. Kind of hard to see from here, and I'm happy to do that either before or after.
Just a general.
Sure.
Here's the proposed.
Okay. That's probably good enough. Let's try to stay the mic here we can. So this. Oh, thanks.
I'll be your easel.
All right.
And you can point.
Yeah. I promise you I'm a better engineer than I am an easel stander upper there. 'Cause they're all-
You've got a pretty expensive easel right now.
That's right. So basically, this is the.
I'm not
southern
charging you for this
part of
meeting
the
because I'm not
town.
hired yet.
And in reference down here is Sun Polymer. Here's like Equipment Technologies, Hansel Parkway, along that area. So we have several lift stations that get us up back into town to the wastewater plant. And we did the study back, I think it was late 18, early 19. We finished it up. We did a lot of locating because we weren't sure exactly what we had and where it was at. So we tried to confirm that and see what capacities that we had left in those lines, force mains, gravity sewers. And so we came up with identifying the lift stations and force mains that need to be upgraded for existing customers. And we looked at future growth in the area because obviously, things are going to start to fill up. We've got, businesses that are here, and we've got, residential homes that are there. So we looked at what makes sense in some of those areas, and if we have to replace these anyway because of the age, why not upgrade those to prepare for the future in that area? So that's kind of what we did with that, and we broke it into basically two phases, like the critical areas we feel like that we needed to do right of way, and then the second phase was we can get by with doing phase one, but it'd be really nice to get phase two completed as well. From an operational standpoint, we're crossing the river here 2 different times with the creek, and we've been having some issues with those areas. So if we can eliminate that at the same time with phase one, to go ahead and do phase two, that would help out tremendously. So we were asked to get together the design contract for that and kind of see where that stood, but those are kind of the items: lift stations and gravity sewer, and actually no gravity sewer, just the force mains. We're able to reutilize a lot of the existing infrastructure on the gravity lines.
Questions from members of the council? Do I have a motion?
Early on, the redevelopment board had asked for and received $500,000 in food and beverage money to do improvements within the ground purchase south of town. They came back and said that they were not in need of that, and said we can give that back. Again, trying to cut the total cost, the debt to this sewer system. Both of these projects are very important. The phase two portion of it is replacing and fixing equipment that's 20 and 30 years old, and technology that with the siphon system under the creek that is a problem for any system. Banning was amazing in the fact that they presented this to IDEM and got permission to oversize our pumps in phase one in preparation for phase two. That saved us a bunch of money right there. I think they've done everything they can to cut our costs. The expense here will pretty much chew up that $500,000, but I would like to go ahead and fully fund these 2 phases with the food and beverage. And my motion would be to enter into both letters of engagement, the 19-312 and 19-313, fully funding them. That's my motion.
fully funding, meaning the 500,000?
Paying this portion of this up front out of the food and beverage.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Okay, so I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second, is there
Sorry.
any discussion
You're good?
on the council? Any public comment regarding the sewer project?
I have a quick question. I heard south part of,
Please come to the microphone, I'm sorry. I don't like it either, but I have.
I'm sorry. I'm not opposed to the idea of this, but I heard south. What about north or the other areas of town? Have those been addressed, and how soon would they be addressed?
I think we, do
Sorry.
you mind if I answer?
I don't mind.
We have, since 1999, we have been working on all of the infrastructure throughout the town. Some of the infrastructure on the north end of town is from the 1950s.
I get that.
And we have systematically replaced anywhere from $300 to $1 million worth of that infrastructure, or done repairs on that basically every year, just trying to bring them back up. One of our biggest problems, this system here on the south end is a lot of mechanical stuff with a useful life of 25 to 30 years old, and we're pushing most of that on those. On our north end of town, most of it is gravity feed. So the problems that we're having with it are inflow and infiltration into the system. So we are addressing those. Just this year on the west side of town, we did $200,000 worth of spray lining within the system. And we also did about $13,000 worth over on Washington Street and Franklin, in that area there where we saw some inflow infiltration. So this isn't neglecting anything that we've got, and we're constantly addressing that. It's just not quite as mechanical as far as the pumps, the lifts, bringing the sewer to where we can eventually gravity feed it in there. So we're constantly looking at that.
That's cool. I just was kind of curious because I heard south and I just didn't know what the status was.
Sometimes if people don't like to hear when we're talking about sewer systems, I'm not going to mention any names because then he's going to ask for a dump truck. But Dave has done a real good job of finding where we're having the trouble with the inflow and infiltration. The bad part about our system is sometimes we get water into it. The good part about it is it was never engineered as a combined sewer system. It's not supposed to have storm water in it. Sometimes because of the technology that was in place 50, 60, 70 years ago, we have some leaks. Some of our manholes, the technology used to, we would have to replace an entire manhole. Very invasive, tear up the whole system. The technology's changed. Now we have a spray liner, they can go in there. I think this past year, year before last, we did 13
manholes at $24,000.
Yeah, and sometimes those manholes would cost us $24,000 to do one of them. So, you know, we have tried to keep the inflow and infiltration out of our system. So never been neglected or not neglected as much as you might think.
I was just curious. Thank you.
Thank you.
The other thing is this has been, honestly, this has been promised already from the previous council, previous redevelopment commission, in a way to aid in a nice pack coming to town, or transferring over to the property. But it also does help the additional lots and the shell building that's already ordered, that was ordered by previous redevelopment commission. And it does aid, like Brookmore subdivision, it reroutes sewer away from it, so there are residents that benefit. That's one thing I liked about the project. And it could add additional users over time, and just like Mr. Worland was saying, redo aging equipment anyway, plus eliminate maintenance costs of the siphon and tow. So that's the way, it is what it is, and we're kind of obligated to I need to be honest.
I live in the area, and I'd love to see the sewer lines upgraded,
Yep.
and we'll have more employees when they build a nice pad out there. So I'm for it.
Can you state your name for us? I know
Sandy
you
Lundy.
are. Yeah. Thank you, Sandy. Any other members of the public would like to speak? So we had a motion and a second. So now, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
He'll be able to sign your,
Okay.
you'll be able to sign this contract. You'll be able to sign this contract.
Just one last thing, it's another, maybe another topic as far as when we'd like to bid. I know at one point, we talked about we're waiting until this next meeting. You know, the time clock is ticking for the phase one, as far as how to get the schedule going on bidding, for phase one. So I don't know if that, it needs to be discussed at this point, but,
My concern is that we just have a 90-day hold.
Yep.
On whatever the prices are, because we're gonna have to go through the rate study to get that done.
okay.
But other than that, if you don't see a problem with 90-day, I don't see any.
Can we bid it contingent upon, or with the 90-day, with the 90-day structure and able to walk away if we don't do the project for some reason?
We will put in contingent upon financing, and they have to hold their bid for 90 days. So that's kind of how we would put the contingency into that.
Shane, do you want a motion to bid? Motion to have them let it for bid?
We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second, do we have any discussion with the council, from the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I'll proceed that way. I'll present a tentative schedule for bidding. I guess I'll email it to Shane, and then he can distribute it to the rest of the council and proceed that way. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the town appointment policy. Last meeting, we set up a committee of Dustin and I to look at this, and this is just to come up with some kind of plan on how we handle appointments in the future. I'll turn it over to you, Dustin.
Oh, sure. You know, the poor kid that had to do all the work. Council members, you have before you kind of a draft, sorry, that came out really bold, of both a process and a application. Reached out to a couple of municipalities on how they handled appointments. This is kind of a collaboration on those. From start to finish on the appointment process, it's, you know, pretty basic. It's kind of what we're already doing, but it does post, you know, on the website. And I did contact the clerk's office. Sometimes I get out ahead a little bit, and I really wanted to see this done in a fillable format, but that was going to cost some money. So the clerk's office helped in with the idea of posting the application on the website, and then what you presented, Shane, was a list of appointments with what is open. So people, there'd be actual, you know, maybe a tab or something that people could click on, find an open position, find these in either PDF or Word documents, fill it out, and then at the very, very end of the application, it says, you know, to send it to every single council member. You know, it's basically filled out like a job posting. Candidate will fill out a minimum of a resume, letter of intent in this application. Following research from each council member, I did leave that kind of vague because everybody's schedule's different and they want to handle that how they want to. I prefer the call and try to meet with every single appointment. Some just want to read through papers. So I left that up to each council member. It does kind of structure to where we, as a council or council president, recommends and votes, the most qualified candidates, and those not chosen, because it does take somebody a lot to step up, and they will get a letter thanking them for their interest. I did add on number 1 on the appointment process. Current appointees should be asked if they want to be considered for another term. That's a courtesy to our appointees that are currently serving. Elected officials and reappointments obviously would not need to submit a resume. I'll just use myself as an example on the RDC. I'm already serving. Term comes up. It is a council decision whether or not you want me to go on there. That's basically it in a nutshell. The application is very lengthy. The reason it's lengthy is because some of these are political appointments, and it kind of gets into, what party you identify with. Does kind of give a brief area for somebody to fill out previous appointments, any kind of legal proceedings, business backgrounds, discrimination, controversies, civic affiliations. This is all actually was recommended by the state, so it's lengthy, but I think it's actually a little bit more open and fair and sets a format.
My goal was just so that members of the council have time to meet with, talk with, do whatever they want, as far as ask questions, that kind of thing with appointees, and that they aren't sprung on anybody without a chance to be able to do so. That was my intent of wanting an appointment policy, which this certainly would do that. The application's more detailed than what I would have even thought to do, but it's thorough.
It is very thorough. I think some of it is very warranted, but I hate to say it, that's what you get for putting me on being on a subcommittee with me. I took the ball and ran, so. Sorry, I kicked the ball up on top of the building and around in the parking lot, so. I am happy to take any suggestions. This is just a draft, or we can approve it as written. That is up to the council.
It will be on the town website.
Yes, on line item 2, announce post vacancy via website, letters.
Who actually uploads that or does that? Is it their office? Okay.
Or, Julie.
Right. I was trying to minimize the clerk's office.
Right.
And like I said, I tried to actually get it to where it was a little bit more tech savvy, but that was going to start costing.
Well, this is certainly more than what we're doing now. And it lets the public know about the appointments that are available as well. which I
Yeah,
like.
yes. Yeah, a lot of this stuff we were actually kind of doing, but it wasn't wrote down, to your point. But this is very thorough. And it's more informative to the public.
I had a question about, and this is because I'm new, vetting appointees. Can that be done in executive session? Or is that not covered?
I don't think
I
so.
believe it's one of the listed exemptions for an executive session, because they're not an employee of the town, in which the town has jurisdiction over. These are appointments that fall short of that. And so,
I just hate to embarrass somebody that gets turned down, or, so I'm trying to figure out how you avoid that, but.
I mean, what I think would occur is when you get the applications in, for the appointments that are being made by the council president, executive, you would make a recommendation, almost a slate, and present it to the council, to say, this is who I would recommend for, based off the applications I received, and take action on those, just those people who are passed. And then for the ones that are by the council, they'll have all the applications into the council, and then it could be a motion by a council member to say, I nominate X person to serve as this committee. The council can take action on that. You don't necessarily have to bring out saying, well, Jim applied for this, we don't think he's qualified for this, and bring that out. You can just take the affirmative action of the appointment of who it is.
But the proper way is to have an up or down vote of the.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Comments or questions from other members of the council?
I guess the only thing that I would see that I would add to it, or that I would like to know, is would you be willing to serve on, add to it, would you be willing to serve on any other board or commission? Because if you have someone that's specifically wanting a single board, but they tell you that they're doing it for the good of the town, maybe they're misleading us just a little bit. So, if you apply for one board and say that that's the only board that I want to serve on, maybe we need to go a different direction. So I'd like to see that added there. I did want to point out one thing on the list that I had provided you. Thank goodness Brent Callahan called it to my attention. There was one appointment on there of Mark Taylor on the park board, that his term does not expire this year, where we got out of kilter on it because he replaced someone that had passed. And that had been a mistake from, I think, 2012 or sometime in that point. And he brought that to my attention and said, hey, this is where it is. Show me the documentation and the state statute to where you have, as the executive, you have 4 appointments, and it's one every year. So the only one that expires this year would be the Danny Shaw. I apologize. Thank you, Brent. Good catch.
I'd like to give that list to you as well.
Do you want to move forward? Do you want that form of motion to add that? Is there anyone else that feels that way?
I agree. I think it's good that, like, you've had multiple people come to you and say, hey, I'm interested in this, but the spot's already been filled, or there's a number of applicants, put them on another board and they've served the town well. So, but they'll also see it on our website, a list of appointments that are available. So they'll have a couple of different ways to let us know that they're interested. So yeah, I like it. Add that to the application process. It doesn't hurt.
Yes, I'm just trying to figure out where to put it. I think there's a little subsection here.
Do you have that are they applying for any specific one?
Yeah, right below. There.
Boards or commissions desired?
Yeah. However you want
So
to
if
do it.
they just put one on there,
We'll have contact. We'll be reaching out to them. They fill it out to the best of their ability. If we have any questions, obviously we can reach out to them. It's a start.
well, since he's put boards or commissions, he's kind of covered multiple.
Sure.
You did good. Boy Scout.
Two-time Boy Scout, two-time.
Mr. Stanley, under this policy, the president retains the appointment power granted by the statute. correct?
I cannot, if I was king for a day, I could amend the statutes, but I am not, so. It is not messing with the statutes, no. This is just a process for the public to go and find and fill out and get to all of us.
That's what I'm. Do we have a motion?
Nope, go ahead.
Jim, come on.
Go ahead, Tommy.
Well, I think he's covered the whole multiple board thing with that first boards and commissions desired. So, motion to approve this application as presented.
I have a motion, do we have a second?
Can I tweak that?
Yeah, please.
Sorry, breaking up old council stuff. Does that include the process and the application?
Yes. Process and application. I want to change my motion.
Amend your motion.
Amend my motion to approve everything that he's brought to us, the process and the application.
Sorry to interject, I'm talking a lot, I apologize for
Nope,
that.
go.
No, we need you to talk.
My concern is on the appointee processes, itemized number 6.
Mhm.
What's the town council president, a presidential appointment, or town council then recommends and votes for appointment of the candidate with those qualifications. Through that, while it may not be your intent to affect the statutory appointment power of the executive, you aren't going to be on this council forever, and the members of this council aren't going to be on this council forever.
Mhm.
I could see a time in which that would be interpreted to mean the council president is giving up their right for executive appointments. So I just want to bring that to clarification for you to consider.
That, the way I read that was the same way, that's why I asked him to state,
Then recommends and votes for the appointment.
do you think it needs to be reworded?
I think the safest way, so every action that this council takes is an action that's going to affect the town far beyond what happens here. And one of the biggest problems we always have with legislation is, what was the legislative intent when it happened? You don't get that in these documents, so all the intent is not to remove power of the executive. 15 years down the road, somebody could read this and say, oh, see, the president gave up their executive authority for the appointments.
Can we just put a comma in there? Town council, the town council president, if presidential appointment appoints the candidate, comma, or the town council, if a council appointment, then recommends and votes on the appointment.
I think that would address the situation.
Punctuation?
Should we have you review the remainder of the application for any legal problems that might arise, just in case?
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. I guess I don't see anything that's going to be of too much concern.
Okay. So that, we have a motion that was.
But I need
Restated.
to change that to amend item 6 to specifically say, if it's an executive appointment, that the president appoints that, comma, if it's a council appointment, the council member recommends and then the council votes on.
Application remains the same, and and the process is approved subject to your change. Correct?
Correct.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second, is there any more discussion by the council? Anything from the public that you would like to input into the process?
My name's Rebecca Williams, 400 Northridge Drive, Mooresville, Indiana. I just would like to thank the council for engaging in this process, especially to Councilman Stanley, who spearheaded this. And I would just like you to know that I think a lengthy application is perfectly fine. I think it sets the precedence for someone who wants to serve the town to realize that this is going to require time and being sober and serious. I think it's good to be able to look at any potential liabilities or conflict of interest. So I would not worry about the length of the application. I think it's actually beneficial.
For the record, that's my wife. Any other members of the public? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, none opposed.
Still.
Next item on the agenda is
I
the
didn't read it like that.
Police Commission reappointment of Mr. Ernest Wilson. And Mr. Wilson is present here today. Have members had a chance to speak with Mr. Wilson as they would desire? We put this one on the agenda before the appointment policy happened, so I want to make sure everyone's comfortable with proceeding.
So are we going to go ahead and make this appointment?
If you would,
I don't know who this Ernest Wilson is. Who is this Ernest?
I think with the present situation with the police department, I mean, they're unable to function right now and have meetings. I think it's important that we do get somebody on that board so they can conduct their business and move forward. Any other comments? I mean, I can put it in the form of a motion if that's what you want to do.
that's your,
Yeah, I've had the opportunity to sit down with Ernie prior to this meeting, and I think he's understanding what has been going on down there and is ready to move forward. So with that being said, I make a motion, we appoint Ernie Wilson to the Police Commission.
we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second. Any more discussion amongst the council? Any members of the public, would you like to have input? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
The reappointment, sir. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is Shane Williams, which is me, my town salary. One of my campaign promises was that I would donate my salary back to the town instead of taking my salary, so I just want to make sure we do that in the proper way.
And the one thing that you cannot do, there's a statute which prohibits the reduction of an elected official's salary from one year to the next. So you can't do it that way. What you would have to do is take the salary and donate it back if you want it to be donated back. I mean, the salary ordinance itself, normally the salary ordinance is the maximum that you can take a position, and then apply it to elected officials as a whole, because of that statute. So, my recommendation is that you would accept it, you have to take tax implications of it. But then with the donation back, you can dictate as to the funding, where do you want those funds? So you'd be like anybody else making donations in the town. And the town would have to follow the directives of the donor as to how those funds are to be.
Really, they don't have to reappropriate it?
If you have a fund, so let's say you wanted to go to the Parks Playground Fund or something of that nature, it has to be deposited there. That is your money, it's not tax dollars. Appropriation that comes into play is when you have tax dollars that are generated, you have to work with that. Donations, it's a donor controls how those funds are to be utilized.
It's $3,000 a year, correct? 3,000 given? And it's paid quarterly. So what I would propose to do with it, and I guess I thought they would have to approve what we did with it. But I'll suggest this, what I wanted to do with it was to use it for technology, purchase of big screens for the meeting room here so that instead of easels, they can present projects on a screen for the public benefit and ours, and perhaps purchase iPads or small laptops for council members, so that the public record is preserved. I would prefer to do town business on a single device where documents are stored, emails are open, things like that. That would be my proposal. They don't have to appropriate that though?
So these funds have been appropriated out as your.
Right. What if they say, I don't want a TV in them?
So it's different when you donate the fund. So
He's buying
as a
an iPad.
donor, you get to
He's gonna buy
dictate
an
where
iPad.
your funds
Do I
that you
have
accept as a
conjunction?
donation to the town have to be used in the manner in which you donate for the name that contribution.
So they would have their
Money there.
I'm not familiar with the account, how many accounts that you have.
One up here, Debbie. Debbie is right there.
Okay.
There's not enough money there.
He's gonna be providing money anyhow, so.
Oh, what I said was, forget the tax implications. If it's 3,000 even and it's a per quarter, what I would do is just write a check for $1,000 each quarter. I know. I know. That's okay. So it would just be 3,000 a year. So he's saying that I can put that into something that I choose. Is it empty?
Boy Scout here.
Well, that would be fine with me if it went into the fund that's already existing, as long as
Boy
it's
Scout.
used for.
So what you're really gonna wanna do is make sure that it's being deposited into what would be preferable, a donation fund than a non-reverting fund.
General fund doesn't have.
Because if it's not being deposited into a non-reverting fund, then at the end of the year, it's back on, you lose that. If it's in a non-reverting fund, then I'm making more work for you. But if it's in a non-reverting fund, then the balances are kept year to year, it does not revert back to the general fund, which would be less. All right, so then you can then save up the money to make a larger purchase or like that. It is not.
There's a Fund 445 that is town improvement fund, town improvement donations, which I don't see why you couldn't put that in there. There is an IC code 3653-6 that we can follow and not have to do this. But it has to be done prior to January 1st of the year. So I guess that's food for thought next year. I don't know. I guess we can go back into that fund there, that 445. It's town promotions or town improvements. And that's a non-reverting.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know.
I don't want to stomp the council by doing something that they.
Well, I buy a Coke every day down at Circle K, and it's 86 cents. I usually pay them with $1, and it's I get 14 cents change, and I usually put that change in their donation fund. So I see what you're doing.
Okay. So that's just how I handle it. Then pick the fund, the correct fund, and write a check for it. There's no vote necessary. I just wanted that on the public record. Next item on the agenda, public access policy review.
Just real quickly, and I responded to you, you'd asked me to take a look at the public access policy because of certain issues. The way that the policy reads is that it uses specific words, and when you talk about statutory construction, you have to give the words the right meaning. So in there it says all requests are made. So in my response to you was that if somebody's sitting on this council and they make a request for a public document, and it is for a personal benefit, then the request form should be filled out. I don't know how it's been in the past, and I'm not saying anything, but that's the way that ordinance reads. If it is a request by a council member for public documents, and it is document that is for the public good and for consideration, and that's in the course of the business, and so that would not have to make a request. You can always change the language of your policy by way of ordinance, but that's how that reads right now, just because it says all.
Who determines the motive of the person filing the request?
You get into some, can get into some sticky issues there. But when you look at the policy, the one thing that you guys want to make sure is when you have rules that are set out that say all, that you aren't trying to, you don't get the perception out there that you're trying to take advantage of a situation or things like that. I'm not saying that anybody is or has, it's just a matter of you want to make sure that you're consistent with the information.
I just don't want the policy used in a punitive way
It should never be used.
against a council member or the public for that matter.
It should never be used in a punitive way, and there should be a consistent application with it. So when you have public access requests, there are often situations in which you provide them, so you have to respond within 24 hours of receiving that request. So whether or not you will honor that request. That doesn't mean you're gonna have documents that you're gonna provide. Got your request, we're gonna look at it, we'll respond accordingly. And within a reasonable amount of time, you are going to have to present the documents over. So, there's a process that goes through with that, but I mean, I don't know who would make the determination as to what they happy to answer any other questions.
I found ordinance number 3, 2019 from Plainfield. I haven't received any others yet. Before we go reinventing the wheel, I'd like to see where ours stands against other communities. We could have a little bit of time on that.
Got a motion to,
That was conversation. That was pleasant. That was pleasantries. That is a motion to table if, is that all right?
Fine with me.
Motion to table.
we have a motion to table the public access policy review.
Yes, for 2 meetings. Not next meeting, but the following meeting.
It's a motion, so typically a table will go to the next meeting unless there's a specified request. So if you want to table it for in excess of a meeting, the new board can take that. It's set by the council, it's fine. Normally, depending on Robert's rule, which I'm gonna have to figure out which rules apply here. Typically, it's done at the next meeting, take your next meeting, call back up.
Well, not justified, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
We have a second. Any more discussion? I'm all in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
We're getting through it. Department head reports. Do we have any department heads that would like to speak?
I just have a couple quick things, and I have a couple of funds if you want to donate money, so you just let me know. First thing, had a quick question, reference the attorney usage policy. I'm new to this, so I'm assuming I would have to get town council approval in order to submit a question to council.
That would be my recommendation.
Okay. Second question is, if I pose a question to the town council in email form, it goes to all of them, would that be considered a meeting, or How would that work?
No, because that wouldn't be a receipt of information. And so what constitutes official action for the council is receiving information that is specifically for this. If you're just letting me know that this
I would
is-
like permission to address a question to council.
Right.
And would they?
They would not.
They would not be able to.
They would not take any action.
Exactly.
And anything like that, to say, yes, you have that authority as a vote, but, I think based upon what we have talked about already, that with the knowledge of that there, I think if the executive would say, yes, that's.
So address that to the president of the council for permission to basically pose that question to you. Okay, I think that answered that. A couple quick things. Cars, mid to late February still. Did contact Muncie PD. They are still interested in the cars, and they have money already allotted for that. So it is there. They're just waiting for us to get our cars in and get them done. And then they're gonna take them one at a time as quick as we can get them done. They're gonna go ahead and take one at a time if they can, is what he's told me. We've given 2 conditional offers of employments to 2 individuals pending perf approval. So they're in that process right now. They're scheduled for tentatively the 21st of February. We're gonna try to get them earlier, but that's where they're scheduled right now. Just want to let you guys know, I don't know if Steve let everybody else on the council know, but we had our phones go down for about an hour and a half Saturday morning. It had something to do with the lines being ported from a company that ports the phones for Endeavor. For some reason, they just flipped them off. And after we contacted Endeavor, they contacted back, say what you doing, and then they turned them back on. Steve's trying to address what the deal is and why it happened and trying to fix that. Had a complaint about mold possibly in the basement of the facility. One of the employees said she gets headaches when there's mold, so I had a company come in. It's a Diane Cat, she's a doctor out in Monrovia. She came in, did a physical inspection of the facility, saw nothing to, say there's any mold. They said the drainage looks good, the attic looks good, no moisture getting in. I did tell her that we did have one of our heating units where there was a condensation fan. It's a new heating system. It's, as far as I know, they've never put it in anywhere else because they're per room, per unit. And it drained some water in the administrative area, but it never got down to where she was at. So the physical inspection was great. They took some air samples, 2 days, and then they'll give us the results of that. And we would like to start a new process because we have one current opening with the potential for another current opening from somebody who is supposed to be retiring pretty soon. And once that occurs, there'll be 2 openings. So basically, I'm asking council permission to go ahead and start that process.
In the past, the department heads have come when there's a opening, because I think at one point in time, because of funding, they said no more new hires. But technically, it's not a new hire, it's just replacing someone. I don't know if that needs to come before us from this point forward. I mean, I don't have a problem. I think every one of our department head does an outstanding job as far as watching their budget. Kevin, I asked him, is everyone funded? Have we paid for everyone? And he said he will make sure of that with Debbie's help. So if you want a motion that he goes ahead and fills the vacated positions, I'll make that. But I would also like to have some conversation on whether the department heads need to do that.
Well, so I'm still learning.
Same here.
The setup. So when I read that you made an appointment to the police commission, the question is, does Mooresville have a the metropolitan board of police commissioners for the town?
Yes.
So then the hiring technically goes through and the final approval here.
Correct.
So the power really for the council is the appropriation for the line items within the budget to fund the certain officer positions that you have. So if you have an opening there, the procedure to go actually do the hiring, I think you should take to the board of metropolitan.
Normally, the way it's been in the past with the police commission, we handle all the processes all the way up until we start to get to interviews. Then the police commission gets the opportunity to interview the selectees. And in the past, this is kind of the way it ran, at least from my experience, is where the department head came and did that. And I've had conversations with Councilman Worthen, and he's told me how his feelings is like what he just told you, as far as do we really need permission from you guys or not?
Yeah, so the decision really was made that proper staffing for the police department is whatever,
We're
budgetary
allotted.
guidelines that you have.
Mhm.
And so, you know, when that is done, I think as long as you're going through the proper procedures of how to make that selection in the interview process, I don't know that you need to come back to the
Okay.
council, to ask permission to start the process.
Understood.
Your job is public safety. It's to make sure that the town of Mooresville is providing the proper police protection that is to be provided. So,
No, you're right.
So we're good on that then. One last thing, both me and Dave, and I don't want to step on his toes, we've been getting complaints about the dump trucks on Moore Street, and they've been dumping a lot of dirt out there. We think we've kind of addressed it, and we're gonna watch it to make sure it holds up to what Mr. Neff said he will do.
Yeah, I think Dave has an update on that.
Okay. Any questions?
So, are you good with just him filling the position?
To me, it's already allocated and said,
That's
so
kind of what I felt.
it's almost an overstep to me for us to intervene with the police commission on that.
Well, but that's not just the police commission, everyone.
No, I think, just like you did, I mean, the money's in the salary ordinance, it's there, we've approved it. I mean, just like tonight, you're giving a department head report, you're just keeping us informed, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's sufficient enough for me.
And our two new guys are out of the academy. They're in their FTO program right now. They're doing great from what I hear from all the FTOs. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Other department heads.
It's the dump truck guy.
Good evening, and thanks, Kevin, for touching on that. What we have on South Indiana, we have a contractor, or a developer, filling a site for future development. I did talk to him today. I instructed him to stop delivery today, and any more deliveries, I required him to have a sweeper on site to keep the dirt picked up to avoid these situations in the future. I was made recently aware that the cemetery on Washington Street is now property of the people of Mooresville. I was contacted by a Girl Scout troop that would like to assist putting a flagpole up there. She would like to come and bring her troop to the next town council meeting. So I asked her to get with Diane and get on the agenda for that. Been cleaning sewers and the ditch in preparation for the amount of rainwater we have. Looked like we avoided any flooding on our sanitary and our storm sewers there. And I will meet with contractors next week to answer any questions about the bidding. We're having new roofs put on this building in the street department. We did an advertisement for a request for quotes. I'll meet with the contractors, answer any questions, and we should have bids at the next town council meeting to open, to get new roofs put on the buildings. That's all I have.
Does that do an insurance claim?
Yes, there is an insurance claim on it. They paid a significant amount. A lot of the contractors stated that, well, I'll work with them. We'll try to get it all paid for. I'm like, well, I'll cross that bridge when we get there. So. Thanks.
Any other department heads? Legal? Legal, do you have anything? I like it. Next item, public comments. Would anybody like to come up on any issue?
Who's that?
I'd like to thank the council for giving me the opportunity. I also wanted to thank you for promoting Kevin. At the party that he had, promotion party, he was visited by several law enforcement people from other departments. I've never heard of that. I've never heard of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kevin, did you owe those guys money?
Not that I know of.
Good decision.
Anybody else from the public? Seeing none, next item, motion for approval of claims.
I'll make a motion to approve claims in the amount of $492,977.25.
We have a motion to approve the claims. Do we have a second?
Second?
We have a second. Any discussion, I guess? All in favor?
Aye. Motion to adjourn?
Well, the next meeting date will be Tuesday, February 4th at 6:30. The agenda says 6, but it's 6:30, okay? Now, I'll make a motion.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Lord, thank you very much. Good.
Trying to do a lot more stuff.
Talk to Jeff. Goodman.
Now?
I got an email saying hold up on the easement until further discussion. Oh, 18. What's the comment?
Work out to 550.
I'll figure it out.